Good morning, everybody. Friday morning, you've got to the weekend, and we've got Ben, and we've got Leigh-Ann, and we've got Bolelo, some P-Way running things in the studio, and most importantly, you are here this morning, so we can get on with it. We can wrap up a good week. So thank you again to everybody for the birthday messages yesterday, which was really nice. Very, very sweet of people. Some lovely, lovely things said, and I felt very loved, and I felt like people are by far much nicer than I expected anyone to be. So that's always nice. It's horrible to be reminded of people the other way. So this is a great way to have things happen.
Do you still delete people's names from your phone
on their birthdays? Yeah.
If you haven't?
Oh yeah.
Is that a thing?
No, so I actually do the happy birthday thing. I go onto Facebook and that's a great place to just kind of be reminded of people's birthdays. So a lot of people choose not to have their birthday notification on, so it doesn't help at all then. But what I used to do, I still do it occasionally, like on, take an arbitrary date, the 12th of April. I'll go on there and I'll say, okay, well, who on the 12th of April? If I see that I've said happy birthday to someone like 2 years in a row and haven't even got a response from them, and I don't really see them or think about them all that often or anything else, then I just unfriend them to just clear out some space, But it's not like a mean thing. It's just really, well, we're not talking anyway, so why must I pretend to be friends with you on social media? I just think it's a useful way to, because you can't delete everyone, and one day it'll take forever. You have to go through the list.
Yeah, sure.
So it's just...
I totally get that from your perspective. I think from Leigh-Ann's perspective, it's just full of malice and ill feeling, though, because that's just... I can just see her with her phone going, you bitch, deleting you right now.
Well, you wouldn't be far from wrong.
If you're wondering why we started the show just a little bit late this morning, yesterday, Bolelo had a brilliant idea. So we have this machine here called a Comrex, which is it's a machine that we use to connect to the studio from my house, and then all the basic inputs come in through this software that we use, and then it all goes to this machine, and from here it goes to the studio, and then in the studio in Joburg it comes out as the podcast. And for the last 2 days we've had some technical issues with that, so I took it in yesterday and I left the machine there because they needed to fix it. This was at about lunchtime. And then Greg, who's a genius, figured out what was going on, loaded new software onto this machine or whatever, and then it was at the office. This is at like 5:00 yesterday afternoon. So Bolelo has this brilliant idea that why don't we just get the Uber guys to drop it off, right?
What, by themselves?
Yeah, you see, you just give them a package. It's Uber package or whatever, and that you can track them on your phone, and you. This little machine, which is probably about the size of, I don't know, like a woman's little clutch bag, I suppose. This thing's worth like 100,000 Rand, though.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So Greg was very nervous about it. He goes, I don't know if we should send this. And I said to him, please, just wrap it up nicely in some bubble wrap, which it was. And then it arrived here perfectly. Nobody knows what they're transporting. I could have had diamonds in it. Could have been drugs, could have been anything. Nobody's going to know. And that's why we started a bit late, because I had to reboot the whole thing. I thought last night when I connected it was fine, and then I had to start her up again this morning.
But some people may not know, is that Greg's first thing as well. It's like, it's going to cost a fortune. Gareth lives in, Potensi, basically. It's miles away. So I was like, no, there's Google. I think it's called, not Google, Uber package. So the guys come on a scooter, actually. So it's how I had shoes delivered. The guy pitches up, you give him the stuff, puts it in his scooter like Mr. Delivery, and Bob's your uncle. And it's a great time to be alive for that reason.
But that was essentially the longest scooter trip ever ridden by a scooter person, because Gareth lives in a different province. I mean,
that's true.
That's an hour. That's an hour 15 on a scooter, I reckon.
Well, look,
the guy was exhausted by the time he got here. He hadn't, malnourished. Hadn't had a pee.
He would have all like the flies and muckies on his visor from being on the highway for 3 hours.
That's exactly right.
Hey, you got to make money in this country. Hey, you got to stick up.
You got to do your thing. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, he didn't seem too much worse for wear, and we got the package and everything sorted out now. But yeah, I had a lovely birthday and felt thoroughly spoilt. You know, it's funny, like you also reach a point where I had dinner with the family last night, which was, you know, it was really nice. And that's you just spend some time with your little nephews, and you know, you talk shit with the family, and you got the dogs running around, and that's nice. I don't want to spend a birthday in any other way. That's the best way to do it. I'll see my friends over the weekend, and then, you know, what else do you want for a birthday? These people who drag it out for like 6 weeks, it's a bit self-indulgent.
Birthday month.
The birthday month, yeah. You know, it's like as Mbulelo always says, the wedding guys. You know, the ones who make a wedding last for like 6 weeks as well. You got this, and you got that, and you got that, and you got this, and I mean, listen, it comes from a good place, but so much stuff to do. Anyway, weekend's coming, and Mbulelo says he's already spotted a few summer dresses and tarts walking around Joburg looking extra summery. That's nice.
Yeah, wait until tomorrow morning.
Sun's out, buns out, and I just love it. I let's get back to it. I'm into it. I'm into good-looking people. Let's get in there. You know, if you're not good-looking like me, you want to look at good-looking people.
Tomorrow morning's going to be absolutely freezing, right?
Thanks, Debbie Downer. Yeah, thanks. We're looking forward to girls running around in their punties and bras. And what do? You bring up like cold weather and shit.
I think Leigh-Ann shouting them, get inside and put on practical clothes.
Yes, stop it.
You're going to get a cold.
Like those old ladies used to hang out of the window and go, "Get off my lawn." Those kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Leigh-Ann.
Yeah. So, Ben, what's been happening with you? We need an update.
Yeah, not much, guys. Not much. It's been a good week. It's been a very good week. But like, I've got to the point now where I want Fridays to be golf day. So, you know, if you have Monday to Thursday and you've done a shitload of things, hopefully, then Friday afternoon should be golf. And we know we're getting to that jolly season where Joburg just metamorphosizes into like the beautiful butterfly that it is. So yeah, playing golf today, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, like work's going great. It's just interesting interacting with new people. I just I absolutely love it. I've got an actual full-time member of staff now who I spend every day with, which I'm quite excited about. I didn't think I'd be that person, but yeah, here we are.
Are you a boss?
Yeah, I guess so. I've got to sign his official forms now, so yeah, I guess I could be a boss. That's cool. You know, like it's like I'm training. So there's this guy working with us. He's actually going to appear on Mbuleto's sports show because he's hugely famous. And yeah, so Cooks is a really solid guy, and I'm going to teach him a lot of things that I've been learning out of content creation for the last couple of years. So yeah, he's shadowing me on a couple of things, and then yeah, it's just a way of expanding the business and ultimately having more fun. Like, you know, in my mind, my immediate business partners now, we're going to just obviously expand and become hugely rich and pompous and stuff.
Yes, that's what you want. Yes,
all of it. But I mean, there's absolute key criteria as in who can work for us, and you know, it's the little things like, you know, you have to go and lift weights every day. So literally, Cooks comes to the gym with me. You know, it's like little basics that you're not just hiring someone to fulfill a role. You've got to hire someone who's
slavery. You actually want to take over his whole life. This has got nothing to do with just a job. No, his whole life now belongs to you. He's in your thrall.
Guys, you absolutely got to own your bullshit in life, right? So Cooks has got to live the brand of what we are. We're sports people for sports people. So you can't just come here and pull out your vegan omelet and then, you know, procrastinate over like who's most suffering today in the world. No, you want to get into it. We talk about sports. You need to be a proper bugger, and you need to be strong as fuck.
No, fair enough.
I'm on board.
Ben has rediscovered slavery. This is great. This is great.
Gareth. No, Gareth. I'm channeling people to their best potentials. Don't you try sully my vision here.
Can I
Ben,
ask you this?
I'm on board. Yeah. I'm on board. I told my guys, no fatties on the team. They know that very well.
No, for sure.
On my team.
Sure.
Sorry, Gareth, before you get into it, and it was his birthday on Monday, so what did we do? We took him to Hooters because he wanted to go to Hooters.
Oh, let's go.
Hooters still exists.
It still exists. I can't believe that place is allowed to carry on because
Gareth, we were there on Monday. Okay, we were there on Monday, and there was probably 15 men drinking beer, just boozing,
On a Monday.
On a Monday, I had a delightful fish taco, and I had like a half draft, but the oaks were getting stuck in. Cigarettes, just amazing. On a Monday.
I've never been. Do women go? Do families go?
Sure, probably not. Probably not families. I think
Family.
women go.
Is there an age restriction?
No, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant that serves. I mean, like it's not a strip club, Leigh-Ann. Where are you going with this?
It's not like American Hooters. So Leigh-Ann, you may be referencing because it's actually a family restaurant in America. They actually went way off the policy. It's not even like they're getting the best looking girls with the proper knockers anymore. It's just like anyone who can work.
Okay.
But let's be honest. I mean, okay, this is going to sound horribly disparaging, but there aren't many good looking girls in the service industry in this country. Okay, it's just an absolute fact of life. If you're a good looking girl, you're going to be on Instagram, or someone's probably paying for your life, or you fulfilling an educational role somewhere.
So
in America, you can go to any back ass hick town and there's going to be absolute like 8 out of 10s serving because it's like a cool job, it's like something you aspire to, something you make your family proud with. But like, yeah.
So in the first month of Hooters, what was great was I was back in South Africa and they had the American girls running it. So they were doing it properly. Yeah, in the first month. Then they employed the proper chicks and then
the proper chicks.
Now,
it's a bit of a slippery slope. You start talking about Hooters, you're only going to come across sounding like a bit.
Oh, this is going to happen. It's
Hooters. Okay, you
go back to another thing. Because as fascinating as Hooters is, either you go to, I mean, like I just don't get it. Right? I don't get it. You either go to a restaurant where the food is the priority, or you go to a strip club where you want to see naked women. Because there are already very good establishments. There's one just down the road from our offices. It's one of the reasons we chose Ravonia. That I would prefer to go to than this Hooters you speak of. I've been there once or twice. Didn't find it particularly interesting. But I want to go back to something Ben said just now. He's building this business, and he and his business partners, they want to get rich and stuff. I want to know what a rich Ben would do with his time. What would Ben, if you were a gazillionaire? Like Elon Musk money, what would you be doing with it? Because
it
tells me you do, because everybody does, right? Like, what kind of a rich person would I be? What would you do?
Yeah, in the last year, I'd be particularly focusing on myself and why it's okay to want to be rich. You get people saying, it's just a billionaire, this and that. Bullshit. You want options in life, right? And that's what you really want. Like, yes. I really do. I really like cars. I don't like right now. It's a very stupid expense for me because it's just I'm not there yet. But I really like cars and I really like travel and I really like wildlife and photography and stuff like that. So between those three things and out of a very functional sort of house away from people, Gareth, it would be very simple. I'd actually be a very boring rich person. I'd be hugely boring, but I would have animals.
Like now.
Yeah, exactly, Leigh-Ann.
It's nice to know that you keep to your core values.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you do enjoy your own, it really wasn't that funny.
There's a dynamic between the two of you that I wasn't here for in the beginning, and I'm here for it.
Well, it's just that Leigh-Ann's very mean. That's fine. We all have our things.
I'm so embarrassed. My brother and his wife and these two kids of theirs. They're going to the Kruger National Park, but they've hired one of those wagons, those mobile homes. Those. Yeah, it's like a glorified caravan, though. I don't care how he paints it. It's so embarrassing. It's parked in his driveway at the moment. This big, galumphing, ugly,
obnoxious.
It's just a horrible. I knew that there was going to be a day where someone in the family would want to have something like a caravan, and I'm just horrified.
Very sad moment.
As I drove past and I saw this thing parked in his driveway, I thought,
did you go into it?
Not a chance. I wouldn't set foot in one of those.
These motor homes are quite cool at the moment.
It's a glorified caravan.
To who? quite
living
cool
in your
too.
van. It's a whole trend.
No, I think it's
No,
a
that's
downturn
called
in the
van
economy.
life. But have you seen van life? That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
You don't want to have the motorhome. So van life is where you gut like a veto. So you
Yes,
gut it
but
out and you make
Bolela,
it like the
you've-
Ritz.
when you've got children, you need to up your van life game. You can't all
God.
4 of you be in a little
This whole thing makes me
combi.
ill. This whole thing makes me ill.
Guys, you must always remember, just because something has a hashtag doesn't mean it's cool. So,
Amen.
Take that van life.
Amen.
Tracy says, "Don't diss a camper van holiday. It's for the kids, and it's friggin' great. We did it a few years ago. Best holiday ever." Well, you're welcome to it.
Tracy always makes a show about herself. So,
Ben, you say I'm mean.
No, I hope no one sees my brother and his wife in this thing. I mean, I'll just be so humiliated. Oh, there they go. Those other cliffs in their mobile home. Their house is one of the others. There's
Other cliffs.
I love that it's about you.
Of course it's about me. I'm horrified.
I
It's
love
about
it.
me.
I can identify
Anyway,
with that.
So I said to the boys at supper last night, I say, listen, boys, you must remember you're not allowed to poo in the wagon.
Ooh.
Because you
must
can
use
never.
the
I said,
pollution blocks.
yeah, well, that's even more revolting. But at least you're not, using it's communal. What are those things called? Those camping sites or whatever.
And then you get the black water pipe, you get the brown water pipe.
Oh God! So I said to them, boys, you must be very careful. This is your parents have decided to do this to you at an early age, which is a horrible thing to happen. And they both like looking at me like I'm telling them a horror story. And I go, you may have fun, yes, but remember that you should never have a house on wheels. And I said, no matter what it looks like on the inside, on the outside, it just looks like a pikey's caravan.
Yeah.
What's a pikey? I said a pikey.
So valuable. So
this is where
valuable.
uncles, this is where I do my duty.
You can say, look, boys. A lot like marijuana. You think you're having fun, but ultimately you're sending the wrong image to society, and people will judge you for life.
Yeah, and you'll never be taken seriously. Anyway, the eldest one I think started to get it because he was asking a lot of awkward questions of his father and mother by the time they left supper. But the younger one he's just excited because bunk beds and all that shit. And I can understand that. But that novelty will wear off. And once they realize that you can't actually be in the motorhome part of it while it's moving, then they'll suddenly realize this is not fun at all because we may as well just have brought a caravan. And who wants one of those? Those like 1970s Jurgens, they're always orange and brown and beige. And you'd see them on the highways going off to places like, I don't know, the supremely south coast of KZN or like in Mpumalanga, and then you always see those signs that say camping area or caravan area or whatever. I always thought, serial killer land and people who fight with their dogs and people who tie their kids to the front bumper when they go for a pee, that kind of thing. It's not my
pedo village.
Pedophiles.
Well, it's
horrible.
Also, it's always clogging up traffic as well. You'd be like, I've been going 120 the whole way, now I'm doing 80. I wonder why. And there's a caravan.
Disgusting.
Thanks.
Caravan. And then, I said to them, boys, it's very important also that you don't use the bathroom facilities in this mobile home at all. You must not use them. In fact, just treat it like a kitchen. And unfortunately, you've got the kitchen attached to your sleeping quarters. So really, it's like a squatter camp with wheels. But I said to them, but you've got to be very mindful of the fact that your mother's going to be cooking your breakfast in the same room that you sleep in. So I know that sounds terribly superior, but they must enjoy their holiday. They're doing it for a week. I couldn't do it. There's no way. There's no way I could do this. It's terribly embarrassing for me.
I just think that'll be a really great reality show. Is you've actually got to put 4 people into a motorhome for a week and see what happens. I think you would get the most brilliant. Because in the beginning, everyone will be like, "Yay, we're going on a road trip, we're going on an adventure," and the inner child will be screaming for joy. And then literally the first day, when one person drops a giant log in there, The dynamic is broken. You can even have it like it's that's the way that the pilot episode finishes. The first person to drop a log, and you can just taste the tension in the air.
Oh,
you're a genius.
You can taste more than the tension in the air.
Yeah. Chris says, we're off to the Kruger Park this weekend as well. We shall be actively looking out for your brother. Stuff the animals. Nice one, Gareth.
Yeah, Chris, and always have a very judging glare as you go past them.
As you go past, look at them with contempt.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to go. We've got a big Friday ahead.
Yeah, all right, Ben. Go and enjoy your
mobile homes. Yeah,
Brigitte, that's loving the show today. That's what Brigitte says. Hooters and mobile homes, loving the show today. That's very nice. Thank you, Ben, for bringing Hooters back into our reality.
Always try.
And to my brother for mobile homes. Now we're cooking. We're like poor whites in a state like Arkansas. All right, thank you very much. Cheers,
guys.
Ben.
Have a good weekend. Ciao.
Good to see you. All right, so the mobile home aside, apparently Leigh-Ann has some incredible story, and the only way that you could probably make it through a mobile home weekend or week is if you were high on drugs. So apparently mushrooms, I don't know if these are magic mushrooms or just normal mushrooms, are apparently capping the alternative protein market. It's interesting for people who are into that stuff, and also for people who Bulelo and Ben were saying earlier, they only like being around healthy people. They encourage inverted commas. They basically force their staff to be like them.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, for me, it's like the next cheap food that they're going to make expensive. Because you can harness this protein from mushrooms. And of course, now with everyone being vegan, it was like cauliflowers before. They didn't cost, they cost the same as broccoli. And now they're so expensive because you can make cauliflower rice out of them, and it's a substitute. And so the same thing's happening with mushrooms. So there's mycoprotein, which you get from fermented mushrooms, and that can create meat-free alternatives. I suppose if you think about it, we've had big steak mushrooms as burgers.
But it's not magic mushrooms. This is just normal mushrooms, right?
Yeah, these are normal mushrooms.
Okay.
And they're now being seen as the big food to help create this sustainable food system.
Right.
So, and these startups are literally sprouting like mushrooms overnight. And it's all about the plant-based burgers, the sausages, the chicken nugget substitutes. Mushrooms are now being added to this. So they're going to become expensive. Mark my words.
Aren't they already? Because I buy mushrooms quite often. I like mushrooms for breakfast on toast, for example. But also, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you come to my house, that's pretty much what you're getting is mushrooms. So I don't know. I don't know that this is such a breakthrough novel thing. To me, that's always what I feed people who only eat fruit and veg. So to me, it's not so strange. Did cauliflower really get more expensive when people started making cauliflower rice?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
It tripled in price. All of a sudden, and it's always as I'm climbing onto a trend, I notice these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
DK says you've got to watch something called Fantastic Fungi. Is that a TV show or something, DK? We don't know what it is. I've noticed that the desire and price has really mushroomed out of control, says Carl.
Very good.
Corona Boring says, I'm a mycologist. A king oyster mushroom. A king oyster mushroom has 2 times the protein of beef. How's that? A lion's mane mushroom helps to reconnect neural paths in the brain. Listen, these things are magical. They really are. Not just the ones that make you hallucinate.
Mushrooms as well. I actually just read an article about 2 days ago. Have been proven to prevent cancer in women. Women who eat mushrooms every day are less likely to have cancer than those who don't, along with green tea. You don't have to have them together.
DK is just filling us in. It is a documentary, that Fantastic Fungi thing. And I mean, this is amazing. You've obviously hit a nerve, because Beth has got something to say about this. Quorn is a vegetarian food brand they've been using mycoprotein from mushrooms for a long time now. Cauliflower steaks, people are talking about cassava, which is a very popular vegetable on the west coast of Africa. That's gone up in price, apparently, too. Lion's mane mushrooms are amazing, says somebody. That's really, really interesting. Listen, I love this stuff. You've seen how many kinds you can get at the average shop now. They used to just be, this white mushrooms, and you didn't know what kind they were. They just all looked the same. And that was all you got. Now
you've got
really,
shit-hake mushrooms.
Shit-hake, yes, that's right. What is because I do make mushrooms at home. I cook them for breakfast very often. So is there a particular kind that's nicer than the others? Are any of you expert in this? We've heard about lions. I haven't seen those.
Depends on the cuisine as well. I mean, obviously Asian foods, you get a whole lot of different mushrooms being used, like oyster mushrooms, shit-hake mushrooms. But we grew up with the Denny mushrooms, which are button mushrooms.
Right.
But they do have different flavors and strengths. Like if reconstituted mushrooms, like porcini, for instance, those are very strong.
Can you imagine being the first human who tried these things? How many people died because they ate the wrong ones? And
whoops.
And then the guys who ate the ones that are like drugs and started to space out completely. Imagine our early ancestors picking these things off the ground and going, I'm really hoping this is not one of the death ones, and popping it in their mouth, and then just you sit there and wait, and everybody watches them in the tribe around the fire. They sit and they watch them for about half an hour, and they see whether or not there's a bad effect. And sometimes these guys would go on trips. And sometimes they'd have just a very nice meal, and sometimes they'd just drop down dead. I mean, it's such a spectrum of stuff when you come to mushrooms. I love to think about how it all started. It's got to be the weirdest stuff you've ever seen.
They probably tried to feed them to animals first, although you'd have to chop it up and stuff because animals can often sense when it's not edible. But they probably did a lot of animal testing.
Shame, I'm sure they did. But in those days, life was also cheap. So you'd sometimes just take one of your children that you didn't like the most, and you'd just try it out on them.
Because you had 24 of them.
Ill. Yeah. If one of your kids was already ill, and you're like, well, we're going to lose little Ethan. We may as well test out some foods on him. Hey, little Ethan, are you hungry? Yes, Mommy.
Want some shiitake soup?
Oh my God.
So there's some
we'll
theories
probably see them getting more expensive, which is sad. It's in Bolelo, and you've often said that to eat a good diet, you don't need to spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the market just the trends and the needs change everything.
Well, I also just think people become so obsessed with the new thing and not actually being on a sustainable diet. Like it's because people want to, I want to try this, I want to try that. Like you really only need to eat like 8 things, but people want to try everything. That's where it becomes expensive. It's like if you actually just stuck in a lane, it's very, very affordable.
You're probably right. Like we've got this obsession, and especially people who are spoilt and soft in the world today, they're like obsessed with having to try a million different things instead of just, we know what works. And most of us have a favorite meal, and maybe we have 2 or 3 favorite meals if we're really indulgent. You could really stick to that your whole life long and you'd be fine, right? But foodies everywhere are going crazy right now. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Don't you live? What's the point?
I've been advised from a family member that I must just for a while let people live. So Leigh-Ann, I'm with you.
Okay.
Shiitake mushrooms all the way. Let's do it.
There's a 5,000 Rand reward offered for the Table Mountain National Park tree bark strippers. I kid you not. There is a group of people. They've got to be like complete nutcase hippies who are going around and stripping bark off the trees, because I can't imagine who would do this. I mean, what would use it for fuel? Anyway, the big reward is a whole 5 grand if you manage to have information and give it to the police about these people. It's not our desire, they say, to see people go to jail, but urgent intervention is required. Apparently,
what are
these
they
people
doing with it?
they're stripping the bark off the trees. So 10 more trees were discovered this week to have been stripped in the Newlands forest. 2 more mature trees were found bark stripped on Monday near the Newlands ravine. And apparently, the Cape Beach was fully girdled for about 2 meters. And the culprit even left his lunch or dinner rubbish right there. The content suggesting it was a single person, probably stripping on a Sunday night or a Monday during the day. This is what these busybodies in the Newlands forest have discovered. Apparently, these guys come in, they strip these trees, and I think they sell the bark as, I don't know, fuel. Must be, right?
No, remember, some types of bark also can be medicinal. So it could be so in Cape Town, there's, if you head towards sort of that Newlands area, there's all there's guys who are smoking Ben's favorite devil's lettuce, and they sell it as like medicinal. So I'm not saying that's what it is, but remember that also exists. So that industry is real.
Anyway, I just don't know that $5,000 is enough. What you want,
especially if you live in Newlands.
Yeah, you want to offer a lot more, and then people will actually go and hunt these guys with guns. You know, that's what you want. You offer like $50,000, and then suddenly, like some retired army colonel is going to go, "Oh, this is my moment to shine. $50,000. Let me go."
barrel dusting off her shotgun.
Exactly.
Heading out into the world.
Right. So I know that area really well, because that's was a huge part of my training run. I used to live in that area, Newlands Ravine.
Not surprised. Yeah,
and Newlands Forest. So what it is, and what's that?
It's right up your street. That's very, very impressive. I mean, where else would you have lived in Cape Town?
Yeah. Well, what must I do about that? I'm not living anywhere else. So it's a protected area, by the way. I don't know if you know that Newlands Forest is a protected, and hugely. I mean, it is probably in South Africa the most protected part of Yuppieville. Anyway, that is super protected and in constitution. So I think that's the bigger issue as well. It's like, okay, it's not just they're taking bark. It's like, excuse me, you're not allowed to touch anything in here.
I can't believe it either, but that's a headline in the news this morning about bark stripping in Newlands. South Africa's unemployment rate has surged to the highest in the world. That's of 82 countries that are monitored by Bloomberg. The jobless rate rose to 34.4%. It's so great to know that we can still win in something, South Africa. It's not just, the odd swimmer who does well for us at the Olympics. Here we are at the top of the polls with 34.4% unemployment in South Africa. This is just great because, of course, when 34.4% of your population cannot get work, that's just perfect for social cohesion and for equality and for making sure that people don't behave badly. Nothing like having unemployment at sky-high levels. Great. Well done, South Africa. This is squarely to be laid at the government's feet. Because if you had labor-friendly policy, business-friendly policies instead of labor-friendly policies, if you didn't have a minimum wage, if you allowed people to work in whatever way, shape, or form that they could, and there was less red tape and paperwork, we would have more jobs. God alone knows there's stuff that needs doing in South Africa, right? We've got lots that needs doing. This country is a mess. We've got people who could be fixing roads. We got people who could be picking up crap that's lying on the side of the roads. We could have people who could be planting gardens. We could have people who'd be painting buildings. I mean, I've said it before, but government buildings alone, you could get a bunch of people and pay them, I don't know, a couple of rand a day, really, and it would be better for them than nothing. But we can't because there's stupid policy in the way. Plus, of course, government just hate business because they don't understand how money's made. So if they could get their shit together, we might be able to tick that down to at least 25%. And that would be horrible, but it wouldn't be as bad as 34.4%. So congratulations, government, making us world leaders at something at least. There's one thing where we're good. It's great. Isn't it terrific? And we are doing we're doing a No Politics Friday, so I'm not going to linger on that for too long. But here's something really controversial. Forget pineapple-topped pizzas. A watermelon pizza crust is the latest creation that, yes, left people gasping. In the culinary world, one of the most decorated recipes has to be that of pizzas, right? World has fallen for strange pizza recipes for a long time now. Someone tried to change the crust of the Italian delicacy to that of watermelon, and we're not sure how to feel about this this morning. Ollie Patterson loves to cook. His Instagram handle is enough to tell you about his passion. He shares live videos. What no one expected was a video of him making watermelon pizza, which he posted on Instagram and TikTok. In the clip, he cut round slices of the watermelon, fried it on both sides, spread a sumptuous amount of barbecue sauce and low moisture mozzarella, and baked it in the oven. What he received as a result changed perceptions of our favorite snack. Who knew this could be done? So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
It's another trend, really, and that's finding different things to put into a pizza base that aren't flour. You get cauliflower bases, you get charcoal bases, and watermelon's also quite famously been used in another vegan recipe for almost like a roast pork or a big piece of beef in the oven, where it was scored. And then you roast it for like, I don't know, days and pour lots of that barbecue stuff on it as well. So I don't know. I just let people be. But I will tell you, once I went to Woolies and I picked up one of these snacks that was new, and it had charcoal biscuits in it and a piece of cheese. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to try these stupid charcoal biscuits. And I opened it while I was in the car driving home.
Yes.
And it was so bad. It was so gritty. It was so horrible that I ended up throwing it out the window. And then I actually got angry that someone had put that in a package. So I made a U-turn and I went back and I drove over the biscuits. So I was so annoyed with this charcoal biscuit.
Little bit of undealt with aggression there, Leigh-Ann.
But
so
that pizza
don't try your watermelon pizza base on me.
What do you think of this, Mbulelo?
So a couple of weeks ago, I was in a setting and I thought, oh, that lady's attractive. Started talking and we ordered food and pizzas and stuff. She ordered Hawaiian and I stopped talking to her. Pineapple, and I'm not kidding. She stopped being attractive to me because do not put pineapple or tropical fruit on pizza. You are such a horrible person. Whoever you are out there eating Hawaiian pizza, you are so deeply, there's something wrong inside. Seek deep help. Get somebody to help you. It is so disgusting. It is so disgusting.
I love them.
Come on.
So I'm usually quite a stickler for like proper cuisine and I fully understand Italian cuisine and the history behind it. I mean, already in South Africa, we're overloading our pizzas. If you have a proper pizza in Italy, you get a mushroom pizza or you get a ham pizza. That's the way it works. But for me, it's one thing I allow myself to do because I love Hawaiian pizzas or banana.
You know what? I'm glad. Just like the mushroom discussion about all those ancient humans who tried mushrooms for the first time and some of them died and all the rest of it. You guys can carry on doing the experimentation with watermelon pizzas and barbecue sauce, which is such a gross combination. Ugh, just makes me queasy, actually. You can try all of that shit. And you know what? If it takes off, good. I'm not going to be joining you on that trend. I'm with Bulelo's first statement on this, where you can have 10 maybe meals that you need in your life, and that's it. I've mentioned before, if I could find a pill that I could eat in the morning and that would be sufficient to fuel me through the day, I would be happy with that. I'm not a foodie at all. So all these bizarre and exotic recipes, I think it's boredom. I think it's people who are bored and they've been sitting at home, and this is a direct result of lockdowns that this man has made a watermelon pizza. It's not creativity, it's desperation. It's desperation. It's sad. The furore caused by banning vegetarian and vegans would simultaneously identify the soft generation. Ban steak and you will find the people you don't want to fuck with. That's from Michael. Well, that's an interesting idea. That's an interesting idea. Imagine if you banned vegetarianism and veganism. I mean, you'd have an outcry, but it wouldn't be like those people would actually be able to do anything.
They just tie their man buns tighter.
That's a very interesting point. If it ever came to a fight between the vegans and vegetarians on one side and the carnivores on the other, I know which side I'd be on. Right. Because I guarantee you there's no army in the world composed only of vegetarians and vegans defending our liberty. No, there's no such thing. No way. Please say pizza the way that Michael Flax would. Pizza.
Pizza.
He calls it pizza.
Michael.
I have an ex uncle.
Yeah. Ooh, that's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
But ex-uncle?
He says, well,
is he dead?
How
does he?
His father's dead, so there's no longer a connection.
You're still related. Anyway, all right. Yeah.
No, we're not related by blood.
Oh, an ex-uncle. All right, go on.
And he says pizza, and as a joke, we in our family, if we write the word pizza, we type PITZAH. And he also said in a restaurant, when we were sitting in a restaurant once, he ordered something off the menu, and he said to the waitress, "I'll have the quiche."
Oh my God.
Just highly annoying.
All right. Winsterian Pikachu says India is half vegetarian and one of the biggest armies in the world. Watch out. Oh, yeah. Ooh, everyone's terrified of that there Indian army.
No, we're not. They just want to. Oaks would just want to draw cricket. Great food, but they just want to draw cricket in the afternoon.
Only obese pigs that can't wait for dessert. Mur something sweet on, like pineapple. Wow, Neil's like Bolilla, very judgmental. That's unbelievable. Shit. Jesus.
My God.
Calm down.
There's something that I've had before and I don't really understand and won't have it again, and that's like figs and camembert on pizza.
No.
Those are two
the
things.
rule is no tropical fruit on pizza. No.
I'm kind of with you now. In the beginning, I thought you were being a bit of a Nazi about this, Bolello, but I kind of agree now. I'm with you. All right. Those are the headlines for this morning. Believe it or not, pizza made it into the headlines this morning. Who knew? But Leigh-Ann has an interesting story about nature. And this is where we need to turn our attention back to the oceans. And scientists have apparently found the fossil of a deadly four-legged whale. I mean, this is the most horrible thing. You know how Gord used to tell us about these giant birds that used to live in the Jurassic and the Triassic era, and how these things would come down and eat, just scoop up like a whole herd of bison and like swallow them back and in flight, these terrifying,
like hundreds of thousands.
Oh, just scoop up and a bit of earth and some trees and whatever, and just knock their gullet back and just swallow the whole lot. Just a giant flying reptile, which is terrifying on every level. And these things, now this is a mammal. It's a deadly four-legged whale that had a jackal-like head and lived both on land and in the sea. I mean,
imagine a whale roaming the earth.
Oh my God!
With four legs.
So just describe this, and then I'll see if I can put this picture up at the same time. But just describe it to us, Leigh-Ann. I mean, people need to be horrified this morning. Let's give them something to be horrified about. You want to be grateful for living in 2021? This is number one reason.
So
go on.
This just shows you how the earth has changed as well, and our water levels. But this 43 million year old freaky old whale remains were found in Egypt's desert, in the Western Desert.
Yeah.
And it's about a 10-foot amphibious specimen, and it conquered both land and sea with its paddle feet. They're calling it Phyomycetus anubis in reference to Anubis,
oh my God,
who's the jackal-headed god.
Mm.
And according to the paper published, this whale has this unusual bottleneck-looking jaw, and has a strong raptural feeding style associated with it.
Oh my God. All right, so you want to see what it looks like if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, this is this monster.
Whoa.
It looks like a seal or a dog with a tail, a long dog-like tail, and then it's got this mouth that's almost shaped like a dolphin's beak, but it's got full of teeth, and it paddles around. It's just terrifying. How big was it?
10 foot.
Oh my God. Why all these scary and disgusting things on the show this morning? And
But
this thing could go on land and on sea, right? Oof.
well, that's the thing, and it represents this midpoint in modern whale transition from herbivorous, deer-like terrestrial mammals into carnivorous and fully aquatic animals.
This is actually a good description. If you aren't watching the show live on YouTube and you prefer to have a description of this, Tracy provided the best one. It's like a polar bear with a long snout, an angry platypus, kind of. Yeah, that's sort of. It's just horrific. You know, these creatures that lived before men walked the earth. We are so lucky that we arrived at the time we did. Forget about everything else. You know, the technology and. People are worried about climate change, and we're worried about starvation, and
Coronavirus,
veganism, all this shit. You have nothing to complain about. If you'd lived at the time that these monsters walked and roamed the earth, you would be just food. You would just be food. There would be no other purpose to your life. People go, "What's the meaning of life?" If you were around then, food. You would be a meal to a Allosaurus or a Quetzalcoatl or what was that other thing called? That this thing, Anubis, this monster. You would have just been a snack. Oh, what is the
like
point of life?
Lying on the beach would just not be an option because that thing could come out of the water anytime.
Yeah, you get like Paris Hilton tanning on the beach in Malibu, and she's lying there and she's taking in the sun with her sunglasses on, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe that the Kardashians are more famous than me." And then this thing comes almost like a lizard, comes out of the water with that sort of motion with its front paws, and it just scoops her up in that giant beak and just crunches her bones and swallows her. And like 15 minutes later, shits her out and starts looking for her sister. That's just unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. How is this whale not found in Australia, where everything on land, in the sea, or in the air originates? I don't know. Is that, Michelle? I don't think everything originates from Australia. Otherwise, we'd all have terrible accents.
No, I just think that, they do have horrifying animals. I think she may be making a reference to the fact that,
everything horrifying.
Everything horrifying. Their spiders are just the deadliest. They are a bunch of criminals, and they are the descendants of criminals. That's what she means, I think. So totally with you.
Well, coming up at 8 a.m. today, you don't want to miss our third Gen Next interview with Lebang Khosana, who you know now from the show very well. She chats to someone called Siyabonga Zungu, who is the brand manager of Proudly South African, and they are supporting all the local brands and how the youth market can enhance the value of local brands. So don't miss that at 8 o'clock this morning with Lebang. Also, that 80s show is coming up today, which is Leigh-Ann's favorite time on a Friday, and she's been a guest on that show before. She's the only one who knows it from the inside, right, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah, it was fun being on the inside.
So coming up today,
very different to this show, that's for sure.
Coming up today, they've got Wendy Oldfield, who is a South African music legend. She will talk about starting out at just 19 years old in the 1980s as the lead singer of this could only be an 80s band, Sweat Band. Only in the 80s. Dealing with the sudden success at a young age, how she's managed to keep her genre fluid music over the years, and her new album. You can listen live at 9 a.m. or at 5 p.m. Then you can check out that 80s show on South African Facebook for more. You can go to that 80s show SA if you want to join them on Facebook. But go and listen to it live this morning. It'll make your day. I'm still kind of pleased with the weather. I'm sitting here in a t-shirt this morning, and I was worried that my birthday was going to be the onset of a major cold front. Still not seeing it. And I know people are saying,
it's coming.
Just you wait. It's coming tomorrow. It's going to be so cold.
Cape Town is like... Cape Town's got these huge swells, and then the wind carries that water as well. So yeah, we've got a bit of a weekend ahead of us.
Well, we've also got a bit of a fight ahead of us on the show this morning. Well, I'm not going to characterize it as a fight. It might be just an interesting info session. So we got someone called Shawn on, and we've been hitting New Zealand very hard on the show. We've been saying terrible things about Jacinda Ardern. And I've got lots of friends in New Zealand, and I don't mean to upset them. They listen to the show every morning. It's their connection to South Africa. And, we don't want to be one of those places that we mock and ridicule people for their really difficult life decisions. Like, do I want to live in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, Brazil, Europe? You can live wherever you want. I've said that before. But Shawn is going to talk to us this morning about what New Zealand is like for South Africans, because we've been speculating about this for about 2 weeks now, and we want to know what it's really like. So Shawn has got experience of this. He's going to tell us what it's like. He's coming up on the show in the next hour, and there's plenty more, including George Mienie, Borge, as Leigh-Ann calls him, and so much more. So stick around for that. cliffcentral.com. Friday morning. Woohoo! The weekend is here, motherfuckers.
This week on Auto Central.
I think it all boils down to the fact that we just have a lot more options. I don't think it's necessarily we don't like cars or we're car neutral or we don't want to buy cars. It's just that there's so many more options that we have.
Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Finding quick solutions is key to a great economic quarter. Use the Nando's app to order a quarter chicken with any single side for only 49 Rand in just 20 seconds. Nando's. Fire it up. T's and C's apply.
cliffcentral.com on a Friday morning. Lots of things to get to, lots of interesting people to talk to, and most importantly, your chance to have your say, as always, on the show, either by dropping us a comment, which you can do right now on YouTube Live. We get all of those comments and we will respond to them immediately, or you can message us on 0797482090. It also pops up on the screen in front of me. Whatever you prefer. Hopefully you got some nice plans for the weekend, and don't be disturbed by all this nonsense about a cold front. Just get on with it. Live your life. What the hell's the weather going to make a difference? Come on. What are you, 10?
Amen.
Need to worry about the weather. Seriously. How dumb is that? All right. So I'm a year older as of yesterday, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So maybe I've turned the corner in terms of having this issue with birthdays. Because yesterday I had a properly happy day. The whole day was just great. Didn't bother me. Bother me. Yeah, I didn't get into my usual funk about getting old, blah blah blah. Everything made me happy. People were very nice. I think I'm over it. I really do. I think that's a good thing.
So being what does Leigh-Ann always say? I'm a strange person. Is that for me? I always think about how do I keep myself, because I think aging is like a mindset, right? Like I want to keep myself healthy and always like cooking on the physical front, just so my biological clock can stay sort of lower. Do you ever think about yourself being old, or do you think you're just gonna like keep doing new stuff to keep yourself young in a sense?
I mentioned this earlier when Ben and I last had a conversation. We both decided we want to get to a good 50 and 60. You want to get to a 50 or 60-year-old age where you are in good shape. You are not some stinky, smelly, fat old man. You are still a prize. You've made some money. There are lots of women who will find you attractive at that age, and you can do well. You can enjoy a really good life at 50 or 60 if you're healthy and if you look after yourself. And that's kind of what I'm aiming at. So I think that's very much in the focus at the moment.
I'm going for skin tags and carbuncles.
Oh, thanks a lot. Is that what you expect me to have? Is that what you're going for?
When I lift my arm, you'll see a different collection of.
Oh God! Oh no, that is so revolting. I'd rather be eaten by one of those whale things than comprehend skin tags and carbuncles. Jesus.
No, it's very inspiring to hear you guys speak like that.
Yeah,
and I think one of my favorite places at the moment, TikTok. There's so many men and women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who have channels or accounts and are just winning at them. And you see each of them make a video about some comment they received from someone who's a teenager or in their 20s saying, this isn't the platform for you, get off. In the meantime, these people are making such amazing content. And it's inspiring to see. It's because you get to that age where you think, oh, my life's almost over.
Well, let me tell you, if there's any marker of youth, any indication that you're actually youthful, it is that you're on TikTok. That's something I can't even do that. So congratulations to those people, whoever they are. I do see that there are, like there's fitness channels on YouTube and so on of these guys who are like 50, 60, 70 even.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like exercise every day, and they're in great shape, and they eat well, and they enjoy their lives, and they see a lot of their friends, and some of them have got really, really lovely families, and they've made their money. Like a man only really becomes, I suppose, desirable when he's got like some life experience and some wisdom and some all-round, general kind of knowledge about how the world works. There's nothing worse for a woman. I'm speculating here, obviously. I've never been a woman, and not in this life anyway. But I can't imagine a woman being. I can't imagine being a woman attracted to a man who's just not very worldly or doesn't know stuff and can't do basic things. Doesn't have any ordinary skills in the world. I think that must be a very off-putting thing for women. Am I right, Leigh-Ann?
Hugely. I mean, I look at my dad now. He is, he's 60. Oh, I don't know. He's in his mid 60s, I think.
Okay.
And he's still cycling. He goes to yoga. He has had to learn how to cook because of my mum's situation. But I went to him for dinner last night. He made delicious cottage pie, and he's making pasta bakes, and he went to cooking school. He's well read. He leans towards the Buddhist way of living life, and he just has a wealth of philosophical background and information. And that's the kind of person that you're looking for. Not somebody who you have to pick their outfit for them and pick out the vegetables from their food.
I know at least 2 or 3 80-year-olds, and 80 is old. I mean, by any stretch, you could say age is just a number, but 80 is a long time to be on Earth. And we were talking about Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, who died this week. Jacob Zuma's 79. He's almost 80. In fact, John Burks, who you know is one of the people in radio who I've had a long relationship with, and who's a man who I respect enormously. Burksy turned 80 on the 24th of August, which was 2 days before my birthday. And 80, to think about 80, that's old in anyone's mind. But there are 80-year-olds. There's a good 80 and there's a bad 80. And a good 80 is still, there's plenty of reasons, especially if you've lived life and you know a little bit about things, and you're not a loser or in terrible condition. I think 80 can be a very profound way to kind of round off a good life. And by that, I don't just mean the age, obviously. I mean, a good 80 could be a great way to smooth over the cracks, polish up a life, have a whole lot of wisdom in your bag. And you can say and do interesting things still at 80, still experience that last little bit that you haven't had the chance to in the rest of your life. I think once you get to 90, it starts becoming, like the chances of you having a comfortable, happy life at 90 are pretty slim. Pumi's grandmother died at 95 this week too. That's an incredible innings, but I don't know that by 90 everything's working optimally. I think 80 is pushing it. If you get to the end of your 80s, you've done well. Congratulate yourself on that. And we are living longer, we are healthier, medicine is advancing, all of that stuff is great. But there's certain realities that kick in at a very old age that you just can't avoid. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm feeling good.
Good for you, man. And the reality is, and there's just no way around it. What you do in your 30s and 40s will determine the quality of your life post that, right? Is a neuroscience sort of like somebody I really respect says to me that whatever you are at 40, and don't take out the anomalies. Ben is an anomaly, but whatever you are at 40, that is the body you have for the rest of your life. Because she was trying to explain it to me like the idiot that I am in terms of the science of it, was that at 40 almost you calcify. And we always hear of people becoming sort of rigid and stuck in their ways. And the science led her, and I'm not saying this because I don't really understand the science, but she said at 40, that's what you are now. So you must, and she was trying to get me to see, you must invest in your 30s, and your 40s you compound, and that's what your life's going to be. So it's brutal. If you don't invest in the health and the right habits and whatever, it's going to be a slog to try and change at 50. So good for you, Gareth. I'm happy that you had a great day, man.
So if I can take even now, I'd be happy to look like this for have this kind of body, and even if this calcifies now, I'm happy with this. Like I've made peace with that. I used to complain about I could be look like an athlete. No, I'm never going to be that guy. But I would like to keep up the fitness and maybe just get a little bit more in shape. I think that's doable with just choosing the right foods. But I don't want to turn this into discussion of me. I think there are lots of people who wake up every day thinking about this stuff. The other thing, of course, that comes into it is very, very few people are rich in their 20s and 30s. You only really start to make and understand money, I think, by your 40s, 50s, and perhaps even for some people, your 60s. And that's great. It means I got that to look forward to, which is also exciting.
Yeah.
And, if I can be a good 60, then I can find some girl who's half my age and make lovely children with her, and she can worry about them because I'll be a dribbling wreck. So that's another exciting thing I can do. Anyway, work hard and save your money, says Red Robin. And when you are old, you'll be able to buy the things only the young can enjoy.
And it's all a bit of the wrong way around, isn't it? It's that whole theory of we should have been born old and then die young.
Well, here's a great story because, we talk about age being just a number, but there's apparently a surfer. This is a great story that's just come in now. This guy is still surfing at 99 years old, and he's in great condition, loves his life. He's out there doing interesting things every day. 99 and surfing. My God, that's great.
Yeah, we actually got a comment in our
Michael.
There we go. That's amazing that he's 99 and started surfing at 96.
Jesus, that's amazing.
Swims over a kilometer in a day.
Well, Tracy says my mum's neighbor is 94. He still plays tennis every week, still drives himself to the shops. He lives alone, and during lockdown, he showed my mum how to use Uber Eats. You see?
That's awesome.
That's great. That's so great. I love it. All right, so there we go. That's the discussion there. I do want to get to Shawn. I want to talk to Shawn because he has been living in New Zealand for a while, and I've got lots of friends who live in New Zealand, as I said earlier, and most of them are very happy that they made the move, and I'm delighted for them. I really am. But we've been knocking New Zealand because they've got this very strict lockdown at the moment, and Jacinda Ardern and her government have basically said to people, you've got to be in your bubble, and you can't talk to anyone else, and it's hugely unpopular in some parts of New Zealand and Australia. But the rest of the world is now starting to talk about this, and it's embarrassing for them because people have this idea in their head of what sort of people Australians in particular are. And it doesn't match up with this extremely supplicant population. You know, the people there are just, they'll do whatever is required and they'll listen to whatever the government tell them to do. And this jars with people because they think, well, Australians, these tough, rough, kind of outback, pioneering sort of people who can do anything. Turns out they're not. They're really actually just quite compliant, quite well behaved, quite ordinary folks. So we're going to find out from a South African who's been living in New Zealand for a while. He actually sent me this email, and that's why I decided to get him on the show. He's agreed, thank God. He says he comes from Durban, met his wife Charlene 20 years ago. We've been married for 17 years and have 2 kids, a 16-year-old boy, 11-year-old girl. My wife is a primary school teacher, and I'm an electrician. I work as a production manager as well as running a small business. A sparky. I run a small business on the side. We live in a small town called Warkworth, which is in the Auckland district. It's about an hour north of the CBD. Our families are scattered around the world in various countries, like the UK, SA, Canada, and Australia. When we decided to move to New Zealand, it was for our concern of being the victims of crime. We've had a few close calls, and we decided it was best to move while we were ahead of the game. We moved to New Zealand in the beginning of 2013 and have only visited South Africa once since then for my brother's wedding back in 2017. So I want to know what's happening in New Zealand. Let's get Shawn on here. I don't know why we can't seem to be able to add him.
Yeah, we're working on Shawn, so give it a sec. We are working.
No problemo. Leigh-Ann, you've been to Australia. I mean, you've got family there as well, right?
Mm-hmm. I do, but I mean, the last time I went there was about 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that struck me was how we went to the wildlife park, remember?
Yeah.
Which is the wildlife, the wildlife park. And we were being told about all these dangerous animals, like the dingo and all of those.
Yeah.
And when we got there, most of the animals they didn't even need to be in cages because they're so like calm.
They're just wandering around?
Yeah, they're just wandering around. And, you know, the dingo is really unimpressive when you see it in person. I'd be more scared of a bulbul than a dingo. But it was just quite interesting. It was like, you know, a jail with animals with rubber teeth almost. These very scary animals who are in an enclosure where the wall comes up to your knees. You know?
But it's like Americans. I mean, they think, you know, there's a cougar in the mountains there, or there's wolves. Wolves are like dogs. Come on. And a cougar's like a domestic cat that's just grown a little bit bigger. We in South Africa know what dangerous animals are. Lions and leopards and buffalo and a rhinoceros, crocodiles and elephants that can stomp you. And, yeah, I mean, these are we really have. We have all the best animals, all of them. We got pythons. You know, we've got things that could do some serious damage to you. Bullshit, Australia.
Yes,
right.
Like I remember, I don't know if you remember the video a couple of months ago where an American was trail running or hiking or whatever, and they got caught with a cougar, and they were going all crazy, and he or she was walking backwards. I'm like, hey, just give that little thing a little. Well, what's it, Leigh-Ann? What do you call it? Kitty litter or whatever. What do you give them that they eat?
Catnip.
Oh, catnip.
Catnip. Yeah, give that thing a little catnip, Chief. You pop over to South Africa. That's nothing. Imagine putting that thing next to a female lion. Forget about, we're not even going to talk about the big guy. Just put it next to a lioness. That thing, a lioness would use the cougar as a toothpick. Play games.
Hey, Shawn. Okay, no, we had Shawn and then we lost him. I don't know what happened there. Just quickly, a couple of comments while we're waiting for Shawn. Zunaid says the Guinness World Record for planking is held by a 62-year-old, a guy called George Hood. He did planking for 8 hours. God, can you imagine that? Wow. Unbelievable. Sergio says you got to look at a guy called Andrew Huberman. It is never too late.
We already spoke about this.
Yeah,
we already spoke about Andrew Huberman, great podcaster, neuro. It's a sort of a neuroscience podcast. Incredible guy, and I've been on him for a long time. So Sergio, I'm with you. It's possible, but it's hard.
Calcification is caused by becoming inflexible in your mind. That's exactly right. And here are the 7 ages of man, according to Red Robin. The 7 ages of man: spills, drills, thrills, bills, ills, pills, wills.
I like that one.
That's brilliant.
The cougars in Brackpan, according to Zunaid, are the real cougars. It used to be like Billy the Bums in Four Ways. That's where all the cougars used to hang out. That's as far as I can remember. Is that place still going?
Billy's, I don't know.
No idea.
Shout out Bob Skinstead and Robbie Fleck for giving South Africa that whole thing.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they started it. Yeah, Bobby.
Right.
Hilton guy. I mean, no big deal. Just saying.
Yeah, he was the one who kept sticking his tongue out the whole time, right?
Okay, all right.
All right, so here it is. Shawn Kepler is our guest this morning. Hey, Shawn, how you doing, man?
Hey, Gareth, how you doing?
Good. Sorry we had some problems connecting to you, but we can hear you loud and clear now. So, Shawn, I read out your email that you sent me, and thank you for doing that. I know we've been knocking New Zealand a little bit, but maybe we just don't understand what's going on over there. First of all, tell us about the lockdown and what's happening with you guys.
Okay, well, lockdown's it's quite strange at the moment. I think old Jacinda Ardern's going to be taking a bit of flack with regards to it. Yeah, currently at the moment we've gone into week 2 in Auckland, and I think we currently have about 347 cases in total. 70 new cases today. But the reality of this coming to an end, it's just not going to happen. We would be in lockdown for a number of weeks before this eventually stopped. So realistically, they need to rethink the way they're going to respond to COVID, and what their response is going to be, because it's just not feasible to shut down a whole country for weeks on end.
No, and haven't you guys had a complete ban on travel into and out of New Zealand for the longest time? The only country that's been able to do any kind of prisoner swap with you has been like Australia, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Generally, there's been 2 weeks quarantine as soon as you come into New Zealand. So 2 weeks inside a managed isolation.
Right.
There was a bubble between Australia and New Zealand, and more than likely that's where the COVID virus sort of seeped into New Zealand.
And the other thing about New Zealand at the moment that people may or may not know is that a very small percentage of your population, like 1/5 of the people there, have actually been vaccinated. So you guys thought that, or the government there thought, all that we do is we just shut the borders, we'll isolate, and no one will get in with COVID, and no one will go out into the world and bring it back, and that'll save us. But actually, with such a small percentage of the people vaccinated, all that's going to happen is at some point in the next little while, you're going to get a massive outbreak because people are just waiting for it to happen. No immunity's been built up in the community. There are no vaccinations going around. It's a disaster. It's a terrible policy.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's their way of thinking. For a year and now, it sort of works, but it's not going to work 6 months, 18 months, 24 months down the line. It's going to be a complete disaster unless we are stuck inside this bubble continuously.
Yeah, it sounds very messy to me. Let's just move on from that. So you send in your email that you grew up in Durban and you and your wife decided to move to New Zealand. You're in a suburb just north of Auckland. Tell me about what life is like there and how it compares to, say, Durban, which many of our listeners may be more familiar with.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's not a bad place. We currently, I say, about an hour's travel from the CBD. And when I say the CBD, generally most people need to work relatively close to the CBD. So it was a fair amount of commuting. The motorways over here, we've pretty much traveled in 80 k's an hour from the Auckland CBD to Warkworth, which is a bit of a nightmare. Loads of South Africans living here. Sure, it must be.
Do the New Zealanders like South Africans, or the South African population a pain in the backside to them? Be honest.
I think realistically, New Zealanders don't hate immigrants. They despise immigrants. You know what I'm saying? But without immigrants, New Zealand would be nothing. It's not just South Africans moving across. There's people from Europe. There's people from India, America, pretty much everywhere moving through to New Zealand. So a bit different.
At least in Durban, you used to say milk and fish and chops, and now in New Zealand you say milk and fish and chops. You didn't have to change that so much, right? That can stay the same.
Yeah, well, it's quite strange. It's like I work during the week for a company in close to Auckland CBD, and that company is one of the bigger companies in Auckland, and it's got a staff complement of about 70 odd people. Strangely enough, more than 50% of those people are South African.
Wow. I can't imagine New Zealanders love it. I mean, if we suddenly had an influx of New Zealanders and they were forming their own communities and kind of doing New Zealander things, we'd probably be like, oh, they're those New Zealanders. I'm sure that they really don't like you South Africans, but there must be some very nice people there too. So the couple of friends I've got there have said to me, one of the friendliest places in the world. It's very clean. It's very safe. People mostly just follow the rules. They don't. They kind of smile and wave at each other. And I did get an email the other day from Crystal, who moved there recently, and she said there are a couple of problems in New Zealand. What do you think the biggest issues are for New Zealanders? Like, what are they most worried about besides coronavirus at the moment?
It seems as if New Zealand's trying to go down the same sort of path that South Africa's gone down, and you'd think they would have learned from South Africa's sort of mistakes that they've made, and they're trying to come up with this whole sort of scenario where people that were supposedly previously disadvantaged, that they need to be put on a pedestal now and sort of given extra benefits.
Okay, so like you're talking about Pacific Islanders, Maori, Indigenous, Polynesians, those kinds of people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my wife's a school teacher, and her main core focus has been to learn Maori and teach majority of her work potentially in Maori, which has been obviously a challenge for her because it's a whole new language.
Right.
But just so, for example, I was looking at an article yesterday. They got some people working with regards to the COVID pandemic, and if you're a Maori or a Pacifica, you're getting paid 2.5 times more than anyone else, just straight off the bat.
Tell me, can you speak any Maori? Do you know any words? Because there's some pretty funny place names in New Zealand. I mean, give me a couple of words in Maori. Come on,
coming from Durban, I can barely speak Afrikaans.
We should get your wife on then. She could probably teach us some Maori.
Yeah, my daughter's pretty good as well. Yeah.
So what are the routines? I mean, what do you guys do on a daily basis? In South Africa, maybe in Durban, people wake up in the morning, they go to work, they might be out for dinner in the evenings. Maybe they're just with family. They stay at home quite often. What sort of lifestyle do you have? What do you guys do for fun? I know it's a very beautiful country. I mean, New Zealand has an incredible ecological heritage, and there's magnificent natural scenery there. Am I right? Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, you're definitely right. We do explore a lot of stuff. The winters are very dreary. Very little we can do in winter. We do still do quite a bit of walking around and stuff like that. But the weather it rains pretty much 8 to 9 months of a year, which is really hard to digest. The summers are like absolutely amazing, but they're very short. So you've got to squeeze a lot into a relatively short time frame.
Because people forget that New Zealand's quite far south. It's further south than Australia. It's certainly further south than South Africa. So what are you talking about for a short summer? Like a month, 2 months, 3 months?
4 months.
Okay, it's kind of like here. It's not so bad.
Yeah, so I'm used to Durban. Durban is you know, like I look back at Durban and I look at all the potential that Durban's got. You know, that was probably one of the most amazing places in the world to live in.
Yeah.
You know, I've been through to Australia, Gold Coast, which they often compare to Durban. And Durban is just so much better. You know, it's got so much potential. If you look at right from the Esplanade right through to Umhlanga Rocks, it should be the most prime real estate in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty amazing. I always compare it to Miami. You know, if Durban had more money and if it was managed properly, it would be like Miami. It really would. And it's as beautiful. So tell me about what you do. Do you hang around with mostly South Africans or New Zealanders?
I try and mix it up quite a bit. You always find that you're comfortable around other South Africans, and it's good to sort of be around them. But a lot of the New Zealanders I've sort of made friends with are like really welcoming type people, and you know, they've opened their homes to us, and we have some really good sort of social times.
Right. But you've been there a while now. It's not as if you just got there yesterday. You've been living there.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was sort of wanting to say, like right at the beginning, though, was that, you know, you often get people who want to sort of jump and go straight into immigrating to New Zealand and Australia for a better life. And the reality is, when you move to a place like New Zealand or Australia, but say for example, I don't know New Zealand, you're going to be battling for at least 5 to 7 years before you get on top of things. And I think that's why, like as you're saying last time, there's a really high divorce rate in New Zealand. The reality is you've got to go through some tough times to get on top of things. You know, like just to put things into a bit more of a context, I stay right on the outskirts of Auckland. It's pretty much as far as you can out of Auckland. And the cheapest house here is $1 million.
Sure.
And, you know, we've actually just managed to buy a house about a year ago, and we had to come up with almost a 20% deposit on $1 million.
Good heavens.
You know, like I say, you look at the whole scenario, you've immigrated to New Zealand for a better life, but you've sacrificed so much in the interim. Like we had to, the last 10 years has been a blur because we've been so focused on trying to get our kids into some sort of stable housing that I think we've been in about 5 houses since we've been here, like rentals, because we've had to move at various times because the landlords have sold or whatever else. And, you know, like you look back on the whole scenario, and obviously you moved for a better outcome, but you've sacrificed a lot. You know what I'm saying? You've lost at least 10 years of your life.
People who are obsessed with equality, and there are lots of those people in the world, they think everything should be equal and fair. And if you're going to use that model, the Scandinavian countries and New Zealand and Australia are probably the best models for that in the world. You have some very, very rich people and you have some very, very poor people, but the majority of people in New Zealand and Australia are kind of middle class, right? And they're hardworking, trying to make their living. Nobody's extremely, extremely rich. Like, you know, in South Africa, we have such disparity. Is that to you something that you've picked up, or is that just a perception that people have, or perhaps the economists give us?
No, I think generally the majority of the sort of people that are sort of imported into New Zealand, or your foreigners, are brought across to be tradespeople. That's why you had to be. I never really worked as an electrician in South Africa, but I had to get my trade qualification to be able to immigrate to New Zealand. So you get paid fairly well as a tradesperson over here, but there's some excessive wealth in New Zealand, and there's a definite sort of bottom tier and top tier. The guys on the top tier are living lives that, you know, we could never sort of imagine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, 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 very different from what we sort of expect from New Zealand.
Do your children even remember life in South Africa, because they were quite young when you left? Are they totally? Do they have the? Because I've noticed you've got the accent. I mean, you've been there long enough to have the accent, but your kids obviously. The Boks is a very important question. Somebody asked earlier, do they support the Boks or do they support the All Blacks? This is hugely important.
I think my kids definitely support the All Blacks. I definitely still support the Boks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my daughter, she's been here since she was about 2 years old. She's a full-on Kiwi. My son's still really.
Did you just call your son? What did you call him?
How's that for a Freudian slip?
my lips got stuck together.
Sorry. Very
Your
rude.
daughter is something, but on the other hand,
No, my son's all good.
All right. So your son, how old?
So he's 16, and he definitely affiliates a lot of his sort of. He definitely enjoys the South African sort of heritage and sort of follows it through. Like
Okay.
He's got like a South African sticker on the back of his car and whatever else, and all his logos. His motocross bike's got a South African logo, and so
Okay.
you can't take it away from anyone. You know what I'm saying? We're all born there.
Do you guys ever miss the potholes, the electricity outages, the violent protests
The
over
looting.
service delivery? Yeah, the story.
Felicia Mabuza Satel.
Do you ever miss that stuff? I mean, it's such an important part of being South African. That's Leigh-Ann and Bulelo and I wake up every morning. That's what we live for, really.
Yeah. I think with New Zealand, like when you immigrate to a supposedly first world country, your main sort of thing is that you want to be in a place where everything works and you got good healthcare, good medical, good schools work, there's no potholes. But once you actually get it, you realize that everything's very flat. You know what I'm saying? There's actually, and that's sort of what I've sort of come to realize with New Zealand is there's no energy in New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
very flat.
that's your takeout?
Like say for example, when I used to go through to Anstey's Beach in Durban or Town Beach, and you just sat on the beach, there was energy around you the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
People were playing music in their cars and everything was happening. So you definitely felt an energy around you. Now you go through to a beachfront and it's completely flat.
Wow.
It's really weird. Like as I was going to say to you, like the funniest thing you ever hear from Kiwis is like South Africans do it. As soon as you see someone in the morning, you're like, "Hi, how's it going?" And they don't know how to react. And I've often had Kiwis say to me, "Listen, stop asking me how I'm doing."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What is the appropriate thing to say to fellow New Zealanders, Kiwis, when you see them in the street? What do you do? Ignore them?
Yeah, they'll let you know when they need something from you, and then they'll tell you.
Oh, wow. Jeez, that's odd. And do you agree with what we were discussing the other day about how many Kiwis view South Africans as being arrogant? It's a strange word to use for South Africans because I always thought the biggest problem with us is that we're too humble.
Yeah, I think they do, but the reality is, as I said, like majority of the people coming from South Africa are like generally highly skilled tradesmen, or they've worked in factories or businesses that are like really on a completely different scale to what any New Zealander could ever imagine. And they've then moved to New Zealand and they've put in a position where there's maybe 10 people in a factory. And obviously a South African's going to say, listen, we can do things in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Like streamline things, make things better. And I think that's what's construed as being arrogant, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of South Africans get frustrated, like you can see things, listen, we could do things and make things a lot more efficient. But the New Zealanders don't want to hear it.
They don't want it. They like that small town kind of mentality, right?
Exactly,
I'm just drawing from what you say here. I don't have any preconceived notions. Are there any South Africans who've really made a huge success of themselves in New Zealand, having immigrated somewhere around the time you did? Do you know of South Africans who are just absolutely killing it out there? Because it is hard, as you've said.
I do know personally of quite a few. Majority of them, especially if they'd bought property in New Zealand over 5, 10, 15 years ago, property prices in New Zealand have sort of doubled in the last 3-4 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. So those guys have done really well for themselves.
And listen, Shawn, Shawn, if you were sort of had an entrepreneurial spirit, and you said like there's no, New Zealand's quite flat in terms of their lack of energy, but if you were entrepreneurial, would you recommend someone move to New Zealand, or do you think you should rather move there, as you said, to be employed, because it's so it sounds like the thinking is so systemic?
Well, first thing I'd recommend to anyone who's looking at potentially immigrating to New Zealand is, if you don't have a clear path to residency, don't even waste your time. There's so many South Africans that come here on a work visa for 2 or 3 years, and I've seen so many and waved goodbye to so many at the airport who have had to go back. Like they will utilize your skills as much as they can when they need them. But if they don't need them, you're on a plane back home. So think long and hard before you get in the plane. The next thing is, like as I said, we've been there 10 years, and we've sort of we battled to get sort of any sort of consistency or any direction for at least 5 to 7 years. We've eventually got over that hurdle now. But like the reality is, if I could go back, I don't think I would have made that decision to come to New Zealand. I would have rather spent that energy trying to make things work in South Africa, and I think it would have been far more productive. Like I think people forget when you get an airplane and we're about 20, 30 hours away from anywhere. Like if someone gets sick or something like that, you thought you moved across to New Zealand for a better life, but like people you love are going to die. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to be there. So is it really much of a better place?
It takes
I feel like crying.
I know, but it takes a huge amount of courage and honesty from you to be able to say that. I know lots of people who've made moves to various places in the world, and look, some of them are very happy and they're thrilled with the decision, and I don't doubt that for a second. But there are others who really regret it, and they can't admit that to themselves, and they spend the rest of their lives just being miserable about it and feeling like regret and sadness, but they don't ever express it or deal with it. And I think, to look back on it the way that you just have now, and dude, I mean, I'm sure your kids are having a great life. I'm sure they're growing up in a very loving environment with you and your wife. I'm sure that you're doing everything you can to give them the best prospects. And they don't know what they're missing if you had stayed in South Africa. Frankly, you don't either. It might have been a whole lot better. It might have been a whole lot worse. But you made your decisions. The fact that you can look back on it now and go, if I had it all over again, maybe I wouldn't have moved. That's very brave of you to say. Most people are so bad at admitting when they've made an error. And I appreciate that about you enormously. That's not why I brought you on the show this morning. I just appreciated your honesty in the letter and now on the email. And now I can see that it carries through into what you're saying as well. I mean, well done for opening up about that and sharing it with us. It's a tough thing to do.
Yep.
What do Kiwis say to you after they break up with each other? I mean, do they go, "Let's just be cousins"?
Oh my God.
That's quite strange. I'm thinking about that. I went, about 4 or 5 years ago, I went through to Invercargill, which is down at the bottom of the South Island.
Yeah.
And I bumped into a couple of guys there. And speaking to these guys had never been further than let's call it a 200-kilometer radius of Invercargill in their whole lives. And these guys are like 35 years old. I was like, geez, have you never just wanted to let's jump on the plane, let's go through to Auckland and go and explore, you know what I'm saying? And
they've never even left South Island.
They'd never left been further than 200 kilometers away from where they were born.
Unbelievable.
And how did they respond when you suggested that they should maybe go and see what's happening 300 kilometers away?
Yeah, well, their attitude was, they got everything they need right there, so what's the point?
I like it here. I'm not moving. I
My
like
place
it here.
like home.
Yeah.
Going down a Rotorua, mate. Rotorua. I don't need anything else, mate.
In saying that, though, they are different. It is a different country. You've got to sort of realize, take it into account. But, but generally they're very friendly people.
Yeah, absolutely.
They may sort of do things differently to us, but the hospitality we've had, if anyone's sick or anything like that, the guys will sort of step out of their way to make sure we're all doing all right. You know what I'm saying? So you got to take account of that as well.
What's the sense of humor like? Because South Africans are well known for their sense of humor. Australians certainly have a good sense of humor and have always had about themselves. Are New Zealanders good at laughing at themselves, or are they kind of a little more serious? Is there a national sense of humor? Like you get British comedy shows, you get South African ones. I famously remember Flight of the Conchords as being like a bit of a piss take on New Zealand's culture. But are there more examples you can give us? Do you find people are laughing a lot, or are they quite serious?
Yeah, well, so you get two different types of New Zealanders. Some that are really serious and sort of run everything by the book. But as soon as you find a New Zealander with a sense of humor, you sort of got to grab onto him and say, listen, we're mates. You know what I'm saying? We got to sort of we sort of socialize with the guys, and you do find them. They just far and few between, I suppose.
And do people really have a lot of sex with sheep? I mean, this is something that it's a huge stereotype, but is it a problem? I mean, are there regular arrests? Do you often look over the neighbor's wall and see them having a go at one of the ewes?
I haven't seen anything in Auckland, but I generally just stay in Auckland, so I can't really comment for the rest of the country.
All right.
Well, Michael says, Gareth, I'm from New Zealand, but I've been living in South Africa for 12 years. So he's got the opposite story to you. Yep. He says, I love it here. I love the cheap Briarwood, good people, and not having to clean my house on weekends. Well,
yeah, we don't realize how good you got it in South Africa.
Yeah,
you really don't. You know, like it.
Well, that's very motivational to fix what's wrong here. You know, because you do get to a point where you feel like, oh boy, we're just going down a slippery slope here. But to hear that gives people here hope.
I think New Zealand's got South Africa's got so much potential, and it just needs someone to sort of take it to the next level. Someone with real leadership skills to just sort of give people that clarity that things are actually going to work out.
Well, on that note, I mean, the real reason I brought you on the show is because I've got a proposition, and I'd like you to take this to the New Zealand government for me. I want to give you a Jacob Zuma. You can give us a Jacinda Ardern, and we'll just swap them from one state prison facility to another, and no one will even really pick up any difference. But I'm willing to give Jacinda a try over here. Are you guys at all keen? Because it seems like a lot of her policies are very unpopular. We can do it tomorrow if you like.
Yeah, no problem. I think at least Jacob Zuma will sort of give some sort of humor into Parliament.
He'll inject some craziness. Yeah, of course. You'd make it.
Having said that,
add difference. Make a difference.
Shawn, having said that, due to the current state, you would need to pay for Jacob Zuma's flight because if you haven't heard, he's come upon difficult times. Yeah, there's a GoFundMe if you. Yeah.
I'm sure we can sponsor him, man.
Well, listen, dude, it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and thanks for sending me that email. I'm just thrilled when we can get to speak to people from all over the world and have their own experiences told in their own words on the show. It makes a hell of a lot of difference, and it's way better than us trying to divine what people think and how they feel. And listen, good luck to you and your family, and lots of love from South Africa. All right.
Great stuff. Thanks for the chat, guys. It was awesome talking to you guys.
Good to see you, man. Well, speak to you. Thanks so much. Cheers,
sorry about the camera.
No worries. No worries, mate. No worries. Very good. What a cool guy. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, very candor. I always appreciate candor in people. I love that.
Is that a town in South Island?
Oh, yeah, that's Canadore, mate. Easy mistake. Easy mistake. That's Canadore.
We did get a New Zealand town name sent to us in the
try and say it. Let me just show you this because this is unbelievable. A legit New Zealand place name is Tauma Wakanada Hanga Ko Tana Ona Mota Puka Pika Maua Honoruk Upuka Wenok Kitanahu. No, if that's just how and apparently that's just how that's how you say hello to someone in the morning.
Yeah, yes.
And if you translate it, it's just George.
Oh, there he is, George. Well done. There's George Mienie. That would be your name.
George.
How's it 3 a.m.?
That would be your name in New Zealand, George. That's your name.
Well, I mean, I've got a lot of names, and that even trumps it.
Okay, George, what's happening? Friday morning.
Friday morning, yes, and it's dark and gloomy outside in Joburg, and apparently it's supposed to be cold this weekend.
I know. Leigh-Ann keeps telling me that she loves a good news story.
Mark my words.
Oh my God. Doom and gloom.
I saw this one news report to say that there was, snow coming, and I don't know, but I hope it doesn't snow. But if it does snow, well, we'll just have to deal with it, I suppose. Talking about going to New Zealand, I was one of, I think we were about 8 or 9 cousins in my family. I was one of 2 that didn't skip the country.
Really?
When the rest went. England, Australia, Dubai. The rest went, and I can attest to the stories, not personally, but from hearsay, and it takes a long time. My opinion is, once a foreigner, always a foreigner.
Amen.
That's interesting. George, I think it takes a lot of effort, energy, acclimatization. You really have to work hard at it if you're going to make it happen for you. And for a young family, I think it's a lot easier. If you're slightly older, I think it's damn hard. And I don't see as many positives as negatives for me. I mean, certainly for other people, I'll let you make your own decisions. But I think it is tough. That's why it's so nice to speak to Shawn and to have his honesty this morning. And how your cousin's doing? I mean, compared to you, they're obviously terrible losers. But you know,
all but 2 of them have come back.
That's interesting.
Wow.
I mean, they didn't do too badly for themselves, especially if you stay in a 1-bedroom apartment for like 2 decades. You can bring a foreign currency back, but all but 2 of them have come back. The 2 that haven't come back are in Australia.
Right. I mean, let's just take it seriously and get into motoring now for a second. But Elon as God says, South Africa is the only place where you can pull off to the side of the road, take a piss, and the cops drive right by. That's true. I see people taking a piss all the time on the side of the road. That is true freedom.
It's very true freedom. But please, people, if you want to take a pee on the side of the road, find a tree or a bush or something. Right. I don't want to see what belt you have on.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. All right. What do you got for us this morning, George?
Anyway, so talking about Elon Musk, funny that he's on the show, but talking about Elon Musk, I don't know if you heard, but they're building a humanoid robot.
Yes, I saw the pictures of this thing. I don't know if those are the pictures of the actual robot, but it looks like some sort of sci-fi Will.i.am iRobot type thing.
Now, Elon Musk has always touted the fact that AI is probably one of the most, in his words, existential threats to humanity. Besides an asteroid, one of those, and computers could, or AI could, effectively be harmful. And it's funny that now, he's building a humanoid robot, but I suppose they can because the Tesla system has artificial intelligence with neural nets, and they say that they're building the robot so that you can run away from it, so you can run faster than it, and you can overpower it. And it is 5 foot 8 inches tall.
Wow. I want to be able, I think it's very important to be able to overpower your robot. Very important.
Yes.
Very. And run away from it. I mean, the fact that he says you can be able to run away from it worries me.
No, I don't want.
Like if that's inserted in the design features from the beginning, then it's a little bit worrying.
No, it's got to be. It's got to be. You've got to be able to assert your dominance over your robot. I mean, some people can't even do this with their pets. Some people struggle to do this with their children. And you know what it does? It creates monstrous pets and undesirable children. You need to be able to assert your dominance over your robot too. You punch that thing in the face if it misbehaves.
I'd go further. It creates undesirable adults.
Yeah, well, that's also true. All right, so Elon's busy building robots, but is he still paying attention to Tesla? Because we can't let him get distracted. He's very ADHD, and if he doesn't pay attention, we're going to have problems.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be paying attention to Tesla because, I mean, his 2 main companies are SpaceX and Tesla. He started that brain company, Neuralink. Neuralink, yeah, that inserts wires into your brain to try and solve things or cure things like Alzheimer's or motor neurons disease. And he's not very involved there, and he's also bought Solar City, which he wasn't involved in, and then he gave away the patents to the that tunnel, that bullet train tunnel.
The Boring Company.
No, not the Boring Company. The Boring Company drills the holes, but the actual concept of the train inside the tunnel in a vacuum. So he's done a lot of things, but I think his focus does stay with Tesla and SpaceX.
Well, here when Staring Pikachu says Tesla just launched the Plaid in the States, it can do a 1/4 mile in 9 seconds. That's Bugatti speed. How's that?
It's actually called the Plaid, Plaide. The Tesla Plaid, and if you get your reaction times right, it can do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in under 2 seconds. In perspective,
I mean, I remember the AC Cobra was 3 seconds, and that blew my mind.
It's really fast. I've been watching some
6
drag
seconds.
races with this Plaid, and it just annihilates everything, absolutely everything in its path. It's got 3 electric motors, not 2. Most of the Teslas from
Wow.
before had 2 electric. It's got 3 electric motors. Whereas Porsche, on the other hand, the Porsche Taycan has a gearbox, so 2 electric motors with the gearbox. So they've got a different design. Tesla's now put 3 motors in, no gearbox.
Well, we've been talking to BMW, and we've got another episode coming up on Tuesday, I think, next week, about their electric car range. And I'm sure that'll be interesting to you too, George. I know you pay attention to EVs. That's one of your areas of real interest. But what else have you got for us this morning?
So in America, no doubt, in Greenville, North Carolina, as a matter of fact, a man had a C8 Corvette, a 2020 Chev Corvette Stingray, which is quite a sought-after car. They never made many of these. So he goes on, he sells the car for a healthy profit.
Yeah.
Decides the day before he's supposed to deliver the car, let me take one more joyride in my Corvette Stingray. Takes the on-ramp to the highway, loses control and rolls the car and writes it off.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then gets a fine from the police for admitting that he gunned it on the entrance to the highway. How's that for a bad day?
I saw a thing someone sent me on WhatsApp yesterday of some dude. He bought a car, a fancy Ferrari or something. I'm gonna see if I can't put this up on the screen for you. And then in the next frame, they show you how he's crashed it into a wall. It's just unbelievably stupid. The kind of thing that just makes you think. Some people, doesn't matter how much money they have, they're still morons. Anyway, let me get that while you tell us the next story.
Somebody can't. Some people can't handle the power of some of these cars. I mean, I would shudder to think of putting a teenager, 18, 19, 20-year-old inside a Tesla Plaid. It's gonna go wrong. It's definitely gonna go wrong. But once upon a time, we spoke about awesome car technologies that never took off, and the list has kind of grown. Apparently, in 1946, a magazine by the name of Modern Mechanics wrote a story about a concept called rocket brakes. This was an actual thing. Rocket brakes. Yeah. So there would be a rocket facing the opposite direction to the direction of the car. And if you really wanted to stop in a hurry, you would turn on these rocket brakes, which apparently had 2 Gs of stopping force. The trouble with these rocket brakes is if anybody got in front of the car, they would be toasted immediately. And the tanks to hold the propellant would be the same as about 7 fuel tanks full of fuel in the car.
And also your windscreen would need to be made of cotton wool because you're probably going to throw yourself through it a few times with rocket brakes.
Exactly. So rocket brakes. The other thing is gull-wing doors. So gull-wing doors have been around for decades. Some Mercedes-Benz have them. A lot of it's the supercars mainly have them. And in the specific case of the Nissan NX21, which was revealed in 1983 with gull-wing doors. And gull-wing doors have never really taken off in the mainstream. And the main reason for that is because of the complicated mechanics of making gull-wing doors. The only company that's really got what they call their Falcon doors right is the Tesla Model X, but it was the sole thing that delayed the launch of the Tesla Model X was the design of those doors, those gull-wing doors that can open on the sides of the car.
Okay.
George, what do you call those doors on a Bentley? So sometimes I go to this restaurant and there's this classic Bali who pitches up there with his wife, probably late 70s, 80s. He's just classic. This guy, the Bentley that's got the umbrella in the door with those flat wheels. The classic. I don't know what is that. You'll know what do you call those doors? Because they don't just open. Is you've got to open both doors like almost like you're opening a cupboard. You know the one I'm talking about.
They open the opposite way. Yeah, I don't know if they've got a name, but I know exactly what you mean. It opens the opposite way, and it's designed so that the rich and famous can get into the car without having to duck and avoid the door as it's open.
That's very civilized.
I think they're called cupboard doors.
Cupboard door.
All right, so look at this quickly. Here's a guy who bought a fancy Ferrari. Here's the picture of him on social media. It says, "What dreams are made of. Congratulations, Mr. Y." And there he is in a pimp jacket with a pimp hat on, standing in front of his Ferrari. And This is the video of what happened just a short while after he bought that.
That's this.
Great. So he
Oh
broke
man.
straight through a wall. Beautiful. Well done, you idiot.
I mean, so oh god. I don't
Isn't
know.
that awful? I mean, the guy in the pimp, like we should have known by the way he was wearing that fur jacket and the fur hat in South Africa that he was a complete asshole and he was going to trash his car like that. Very good. Great move. I mean,
accelerators are not a switch. You know, you can't.
all right. So somebody says here those are called suicide doors. Someone else says they're called French doors.
Yeah, suicide doors. I've heard that before. I don't know if there's an official name, but I've heard those before.
No, but the suicide doors go up. The ones I'm talking about. The
gull-wing doors.
Oh, is that gull-wing?
Yes, that's gull-wing doors.
And the one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, suicide doors, French doors. I think they're all applicable, but they're designed for the rich and famous to get into the car easily.
All right, George. Anything else?
Yes, turbine engines. So also a technology that never took off. Turbine engines, and the reason they never took off, I mean, turbine engines are the engines like the ones on big jet aircraft, and it's because of the delay in power in the turbine engine. I mean, it's much more powerful than a regular engine, but when you start, throttling up the turbine engine, it takes a while to gain momentum, and that's the reason it didn't take off. There were some cars that were designed with turbine engines but never took off. And then finally, another technology that never took off was steam engine cars. Believe it or not, steam engine cars have their roots in the 1670s.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
And there was a Stanley steamer that could do 200 k's an hour in 1906.
Okay,
Sure.
but we don't use steam cars anymore, George, right? I mean, I haven't seen one on the roads for a while. It would be hard to get the boiler in the car working quickly enough.
And you'd need somebody to shovel coal.
Yeah, you need a person.
Stoker.
Stoker, that's what it's called, yeah. And then very finally, Gareth, the grace period for expired vehicle license discs and licenses comes to an end. Sorry, the grace period comes to an end at the end of August, according to
I can't get an appointment, Fikile. So guess what? You're just gonna have to find me.
So exactly. So while the grace period comes to an end, there are still some serious issues at the licensing departments, and so we can probably expect some long queues in the next couple of days, including people that are driving around without licenses. Big problems in that area, I think.
Well, to finish off the show this morning, especially for those people who like and subscribe and comment on YouTube, and I've been telling you for a while, it's worth your while to do this. Here is a watermelon pizza to look at, just in case you needed to start.
No.
There it is, a watermelon pizza, just in case you weren't sure what it is. Now you know.
Porco miseria.
All that is holy.
Horrendous. Okay, everybody, have a happy weekend. We will see you on Monday at 6 o'clock. Thank you, George. Thank you, Leigh-Ann. Thank you, Bolelo. Most especially, thank you to you